What is up, backyard explorers? Today I want to give you my top 5 tips for overlanding with kids. Now, I'm specifically talking about, you know, overnight adventures, maybe a week-long adventure, something like that. I'm not talking about setting out on international travel or something like that. Not that these wouldn't apply to that, but I just haven't done that, so I don't feel like I have any experience there. First, I want to be really clear. I'm an expert in basically nothing. So I don't consider myself an expert at overlanding or off-roading or car camping or whatever the heck you want to call it. But what I do know is that I love doing these types of adventures and I want to do them with my family and bring my kids. And so I've been kind of fine tuning my process over the past couple years so that not only are my kids looking forward to it, but that it's an enjoyable experience for all of us. So this brings me to tip number 1. The first and most important thing, in my opinion: stop frequently. So how often you stop and things like that really depend on your kids, what they can handle. Also, their age varies. It's changing as my kids get older. So I have 3 kids right now. I have a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and an 8-month-old. And my 6-year-old and 3-year-old, they're even different, right? So my 6-year-old, he can handle less time in the car without stopping than actually my 3-year-old can. So typically what I've found for us is about every 2 hours, we need to stop for at least 15 to 30 minutes, stretch our legs, do some exploring, things like that. So one of the things that I think is really important is just making that part of the adventure. I love the journey. I love going and seeing cool things. I love exploring new places, and I want my kids to experience that too. And so one of the best things that we do is I plan routes that I know that we're going to have cool stuff to do. So sometimes that means my kids, they're obsessed with dinosaurs. So sometimes that means we're going to stop and look at a dinosaur footprint, or we're going to just stop and do some simple hiking, or their second favorite thing in the world is just stopping and throwing rocks in the water. And so if we can do something like that, we're regularly stopping and doing that. It makes our trips longer. It makes it so that I can cover less miles. I don't care. They love it. It makes me happy. When they're happy, I'm happy. And it makes an adventure really good for all of us. Tip number 2 for overlanding with kids: everybody needs to have their own water bottle. I know that seems like a simple thing. When you're out and about, especially we're here in Utah, which 90% of the time it's really warm and dry, and dehydration is a real issue. And when kids get dehydrated, they get really grumpy. And so we have a water bottle that's sitting right next to their cup holders in their chairs, and we're constantly telling them to drink more water. We're constantly telling them to fill it up. It means that we're stopping to pee all the time. When we're on the trail, it's not a big deal, but it's really important to keep them hydrated for keeping them happy. And so we're constantly doing that. In fact, I usually bring a big, like a Nalgene style bottle that is an extra fill up. So I don't have to stop and get our main water out. When they need to fill up, we can just fill up with that thing, and then I fill it up at the end of the day as well. Tip number 3, dress appropriately. Meaning, right now it's a little bit cold. It's probably about 40 degrees or so. So it's not super freezing cold or anything, but the kids have a jacket and they have a hat on, and they're prepared if it gets colder. Cold kids are like the most annoying thing in the world. They don't understand why they're cold. They don't understand how to get warm fast. They don't get that if they put their hands in their pocket and just leave them in there, their hands are going to warm up. Little things like that. So dressing appropriately makes a massive difference. Just having a beanie, for example, I found to be super helpful with kids because their heads, they get cold easily. Throw a beanie on it and they can handle like a 10-degree cooler temperature just from having a beanie on. 4th tip for overlanding with kids: bring some type of a device. I know people are going to be like, ugh, screen time with kids, blah, blah, blah. Look, I'm all about kids having limited screen time. However, for example, last night, it's the middle of winter, it's February 1st right now. We're pulling up, it's dark at like 6 o'clock. So I get dinner ready, we eat dinner, we hang out for a little while. It's still like 8 o'clock. They're not quite ready to conk out and go to sleep yet. It's too dark and too cold for them to be chilling outside. If it was just me, I'd just build up a fire and sit around a fire all night. But I'm with my kids, and they're going to get cold and things like that. So what do? We download a couple shows. We all get in. We get curled up in our sleeping bags. We turn on a show. Before we're halfway through it, they're both knocked out, totally asleep, and we're ready to move on. Same thing with when when I'm off-road, I don't let them have any devices or anything like that. We're just having a good time, enjoying where we're at, looking at things. But if we're going to spend 3 hours on the pavement coming down here, I'm going to throw a show up on there so they can watch that, be entertained while we're doing it, and it makes the time that they spend in the car seem like a lot less time, and it allows me to go longer distances while we're on pavement without having to get a break. So I'm all about bringing in a device. It's a fantastic way to enjoy something as a family. I usually try to download a show that I liked as a kid, and then we can watch that and kind of share that experience with each other. Fifth, and most important of all, in my opinion, you got to do it frequently, and you got to get your kids involved. So if you're going to try to do this, if you're only going out once a year, it's really hard getting kids into a routine of really liking it. So I'm all about little overnight adventures. Take your kids out, bring them along, make sure they have a great experience, spend the morning in camp, hanging out, throwing rocks, building stuff, playing catch, whatever you got to do to have a really good experience. And then from there, they're going to build up that desire. They're going to like doing it, and they're going to feel comfortable doing it, and so they're going to get into their own routine and the things that they like to do. In addition to, you got to get them involved somehow. So my 6-year-old, he loves filming. I could put the camera up on a tripod every time. It would be a better shot. Sometimes it's kind of shaky. Sometimes he's talking, things like that. But you know what? He loves the camera. And so if I can get him involved by jumping in and shooting some footage as we're driving by and things like that, it makes a huge difference in how much he likes the trip. And so I'm all about doing that. So if your kids, if they like to look at maps, throw up your Gaia GPS map or your HEMA maps on a secondary device and let them see where you're going. I have a big huge paper atlas of Utah that I'm letting the kids flip through, and half the time they're like, are we here? Yeah, we're there. No, we're not even close to there, but it makes them feel involved in what we're doing and makes them want to come and do it more. I love being outdoors, and I want to be outdoors with my kids as much as possible and exploring this beautiful state that we live in and the surrounding states. And I know that that's how a lot of you feel, that it's something that you want to do. Either you want to do it with your kids or you are doing it with your kids. So I'm hoping that some of these tips will help. If they were helpful, please jump in the comments and tell me what you're doing that makes it more fun and works well with your kids. When you had kids, if you have kids now, I want to hear everyone's experiences. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can always check out our content on Instagram at Backroad Exploration. Thanks for watching. In a single day, unless there's a lot of really fast roads, and our roads have been mediocrely fast. Hey, I gotta talk for a second. Can you please stop, Jackie?